Ever find yourself saying, "bless you," to a total stranger on the bus and then wondering, why? Or maybe you've deliberately walked the long way around a ladder for no logical reason. It's almost like our brains are running ancient, buggy software we can't uninstall. We think we're so modern with our Wi-Fi and our robot vacuums, but these ancient superstitions are still controlling your life in ways you don't even notice. Let's get right into it. Number 6, knocking on wood. Picture this: you're telling your friend about your upcoming driving test. You say, "I've been practicing for weeks, I feel really good about it." And then, a wave of primal panic washes over you. You look around, wild-eyed, and frantically rap your knuckles on the nearest coffee table. Congratulations, you just performed a magic ritual your ancestors would be proud of. The origin of this particular twitch is a bit murky, but the most popular theory sends us back to ancient pagan cultures that believed spirits and gods lived in trees. Knocking on a tree was a way of saying, "Hey, powerful dryad, could you please grant me some good luck?" Or, conversely, it was a way to create noise to scare off any malevolent spirits who might have overheard your good fortune and were already plotting your downfall. Because, apparently, ancient evil spirits had nothing better to do than listen to conversations about parallel parking and cause last-minute chaos. Another theory links it to Christians touching the wood of the cross for a blessing. Either way, the psychology behind it is fascinating. It's called a magical thinking neutralizer. Your brain, in a moment of optimism, tempts fate. Immediately after, the older, more anxious part of your brain, the part that's still worried about saber-toothed tigers, screams, "Abort." Abort, UVANGERED the universe. Knocking on wood is a physical, tangible action that tricks your brain into feeling like it has regained control. You've undone the jinx. It's a placebo for anxiety. So, the next time you find yourself desperately tapping on your particle board desk, just remember you're trying to appease the ghost of a forest that was turned into office furniture. Number 5, the bless you reflex. A sneeze is a completely involuntary, biological explosion of air from your face at nearly 100 miles per hour. It's your body's bouncer, forcefully ejecting dust and irritants from the premises. Yet when it happens, we treat it like a major spiritual event. Someone shouts, "bless you," from across the room, and you, the sneezer, are socially obligated to say thank you. We perform this little script multiple times a day, without ever stopping to think about how deeply weird it is. This tradition has some pretty morbid roots. One of the most common beliefs, dating back to Pope Gregory the Great during a plague in 6th century Rome, was that a sneeze was an early symptom of sickness. Saying "God bless you" was essentially a quick prayer for the person's survival. An older, and frankly more metal belief was that a sneeze could literally expel your soul from your body through your nose. Your soul just flying out into the open air. Bless you was a charm to either stuff that soul right back in there or protect it from being snatched by a wandering demon. Yeah, people used to think demons were just loitering around, waiting to steal your soul mid-sneeze. Today, it's just a fossil of a phrase, a social tic we've inherited. It's an automatic response, like saying "oops" when you bump into a mannequin. We're not actually concerned for the person's spiritual well-being. We're just following a program installed in our brains thousands of years ago. Your body violently expels mucus, and society demands you get a tiny, verbal prayer in return. It's the original pop-up ad for divine intervention. Number 4, the shattered soul. A small mirror slips from your hand and shatters on the tile floor. For a split second, your first thought isn't about the $7 you just lost or the tiny shards of glass you'll be finding in your socks for the next month. It's the number 7. 7 years of bad luck downloaded directly into your life. You might laugh it off, but a tiny, ancient part of your brain just logged that event in a folder labeled potential curses. This superstition comes to us from the Romans, who were apparently very concerned about the structural integrity of their souls. They believed that a mirror didn't just show your reflection, it captured a little piece of your spirit. So, breaking a mirror wasn't just an accident, it was an act of violence against your own soul, fracturing your spiritual health. Why 7 years? Because the Romans also held the belief that the human body regenerated itself on a 7-year cycle. So you were basically stuck with a glitchy, corrupted soul file for 7 full years, waiting for the system to reboot. Good luck with that. This is a textbook case of confirmation bias. Once you believe you're cursed, your brain turns into an eager detective, specifically looking for clues to prove it. If you lose your keys a week later, it's not because you're forgetful, it's the mirror. If you get a flat tire, it's not random road debris, it's the mirror. Your brain conveniently ignores the hundreds of perfectly fine, non-cursed days you have. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that gives us a false sense of an orderly, cause-and-effect universe, even if that cause is a broken piece of glass and the effect is 7 years of mild inconveniences. It's not a hex. It's just your brain planting evidence and then congratulating itself for cracking the case. Number 3, the ladder triangle of doom. You're walking down the street, and up ahead, a window washer's ladder is blocking half the sidewalk. You have 2 choices: walk under it and continue on your merry way, or step off the curb into the street, risking a close encounter with a speeding Uber Eats cyclist. Most of us, without a second thought, will choose the cyclist. We will actively risk real, physical danger to avoid the vague, undefined bad luck of walking through an empty space. So, why is this triangle so terrifying? One of the most enduring theories is rooted in Christian symbolism. A ladder leaning against a wall forms a triangle, the shape representing the Holy Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. To walk through that triangle was to break the Trinity, a profoundly blasphemous act that basically rolled out the welcome mat for the devil. An even older, ancient Egyptian belief held that triangles were sacred shapes, think pyramids, and passing through one was a big no-no. Of course, there is the blisteringly obvious practical reason. Don't walk under ladders because things, like buckets of paint or wrenches or people, might fall on your head. But our brains are not content with simple, boring logic. No, we prefer mystical doom. This is a classic example of how a piece of sound, practical advice gets warped into a supernatural taboo over centuries. It's easier for our brains to operate on a simple, scary rule, triangle equals bad, than to perform a complex risk assessment of every ladder we see. Is the person on it holding anything? Is the ladder wobbly? You're not just avoiding a concussion, you're avoiding a one-on-one meeting with Satan. And honestly, who has time for that on a Tuesday? Number 2, the Black Cat Smear Campaign. A sleek black cat darts across the sidewalk in front of you. What's your gut reaction? Do you think, oh, a cute little void kitty? Or do you feel a faint, inexplicable twinge of dread, a tiny voice in your head whispering, well, my day is ruined? If you feel the dread, you're experiencing the fallout from one of history's most successful and ridiculous rebranding efforts. This is a fantastic example of just how arbitrary superstitions are. For the ancient Egyptians, cats, including black ones, were practically divine. They were associated with the goddess Bastet and were so revered that killing one, even accidentally, could get you the death penalty. They were symbols of good fortune and protection. So, what happened? Well, the Middle Ages happened. As Christianity spread through Europe, the Church was on a mission to stamp out any lingering pagan beliefs. Cats, with their independent, mysterious nature, and black cats, with their convenient nighttime camouflage, were suddenly associated with witches and heresy. They went from being divine protectors to being literal demons in disguise, the familiars of witches, or Satan himself out for an evening stroll. An entire continent engaged in a centuries-long smear campaign against an animal based on nothing more than its fur color. It's a powerful lesson in how our brains create fear through association. We take a neutral thing, a cat, and pair it with a scary concept, a witch, and after a few hundred years of propaganda, the connection becomes automatic. So, when you flinch at a black cat, you're not sensing a dark omen. You're feeling the faint, cultural ghost of medieval paranoia. The cat, for its part, is probably just looking for a sunny spot to nap, blissfully unaware of its starring role in your inherited psychodrama. Number 1, blinding the devil with salt. You're in the kitchen, reaching for the olive oil, and you accidentally knock over the salt shaker. A white pyramid of precious sodium chloride spills across your countertop. Before you even think to grab a sponge, an ancient instinct takes over. You pinch a bit of the spilled salt, and without breaking eye contact with your mess, you toss it over your left shoulder. You might not even consciously know why you're doing it. It just feels correct. For most of human history, salt wasn't just a thing you used to make popcorn taste better, it was life. It was a preservative, a disinfectant, and so valuable it was used as currency. The word salary comes from the Latin word for salt. So, spilling something that precious was, in itself, an unlucky and wasteful act, an invitation for misfortune. The act of tossing it over your shoulder is the magical undo button. But why the left shoulder specifically? According to a whole host of ancient traditions, the devil, or at least a gaggle of his junior-level demons, was thought to chill out over your left shoulder, whispering temptations and waiting for you to mess up. By throwing that pure, valuable salt over your left shoulder, you were effectively blinding the devil. You were chucking a fistful of purity right into the face of evil, distracting him long enough so he couldn't capitalize on the bad luck you just created. Of all the superstitions on this list, this is one of the most proactive. You're not just avoiding a bad omen, you're fighting back. You're taking a simple, physical action to restore cosmic order, which gives you a profound, if misplaced, sense of control. So next time you do it, know that you're participating in a thousands-year-old tradition of fighting evil with seasoning. You're not just cleaning up a mess, you're temporarily incapacitating the Prince of Darkness with sodium. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.